And we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live on the GSMC Sports Network, the GSMC Podcasting Network, streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. So make sure you guys Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show to get notifications, when we also publish new video content. And also make sure you sound off in the comment section telling us how you feel 1,010%. We will get back to you. So without further ado, we got my fifth and final segment. Going to keep it short here. No running. Always run past just rambling on for hours and hours and hours. We're going to talk about AEW Dynamite Beach Break. So we're supposed to get an answer from Bobby Lashley in terms of letting MJF in the Hurt Syndicate. You know, it's never really seemed like this really storyline seems like it really kind of belonged in MJF's locker room. If you catch my drift, MJF, his personality and where he shines in professional wrestling isn't him pandering, begging, Montel for a job with the Hurt Syndicate, or that's not really MJF's style. So is he really honestly kind of doing it for a reason? Does he feel like, MVP will put him into AEW World Championship potential or the picture? It's possible, but that picture right now is so stacked with everybody just itching and clawing to get back at it. The only thing that really makes sense here is a feud between, Bobby Lashley and MJF, a match that a lot of fans honestly probably would like to see rather than MJF join this Hurt Syndicate, which I kind of compare it to like Sami Zayn joining, the Bloodline, being the honorary Uce, or who knows, maybe it's crazy. Maybe MJF, and Shelton Benjamin and MVP turn on Bobby Lashley, and then that happens, which won't happen. But it's nice to, like I said, conspiracy theories fans would make things a little interesting, being honest, but they're tag team champions, so that's not going to happen. My most likely, what I think will happen, and it probably won't happen because I'm stupid. Okay, so the Hurt Business is looking for a third character, and the Hurt Syndicate, is looking for a third piece to the puzzle. Cedric Alexander, used to be part of the Hurt Business, and he's been, he got released from WWE, and they're like, oh, you know what? We actually found a third guy. And then MJF's like, what? What do you mean? And then bam, like the music hits, and then Cedric Alexander comes out, and then that's the guy to the and then then Bobby Lashley gives his tag team title to to Alexander to team up with Shelton Benjamin to fight in AEW in the World Tag Team Division. That seemed like that'd be ultimately kind of the overall goal, which in my opinion would make sense. Because other than that, Bobby Lashley needs to be in the main event picture. He does. The Hurt Syndicate being AEW World Tag Team Champions, it's cool and all, it's good for them, but I want to see, a lot of people they expect more from Bobby Lashley. They want to see Bobby Lashley in more of those singles competition, which will definitely, start with the feud with MJF, which would be pretty badass, I would honestly love to see that. Instead of MJF, like I said, pulling a Sami Zayn, being the honorary Uce, doing dirty work for the Hurt Syndicate, and them kind of being like, oh, that's so cool, that's so funny, look at him try to beat up somebody, that's awesome. We hurt people. Sorry, that kind of hurt. But I don't know. If this storyline is, if it needs to make sense, I kind of thought maybe Ricochet was going to get into it, but I don't think that's much of the diagnostic now. Next, we have Ricochet taking on Zach Gowen. Speaking of Ricochet, I want to see Ricochet win. I want to start seeing, his heel turn is, it's cool and all, but he looks like a high schooler with his backwards hat, with these little quips, with these little insults and the random laughs and stuff like that. Like, it's, I love that Ricochet left at WWE. WWE did nothing with his character. Ultimately wasted his talent. And I agree with that 1,010%. But he comes to AEW, and I feel like he's more of like a clown. He's more of an antagonist. Like, I would love to see him hold a championship. I would love to see him hold, not the Digital Media Championship. What's the, the Ring of Honor, the secondary, the TV champion. Men's television. it could work. We got Death Before Dishonor coming up. I think it's in July. Maybe he finds a way to win the title. I feel like Ricochet belongs in more of a mid-card title picture. Going up against Swerve Strickland in his first little stint, obviously didn't really do much for his career in AEW because Swerve is over right now. Everybody loves Swerve Strickland in AEW, and you got to respect what Swerve has done for AEW. Cody Rhodes, left the company, said, "Hey, bye." CM Punk didn't like the backstage politics with the EVPs, and I can kind of see it. And he was like, "Oh, hey, bye." And then Samoa Joe leaves to film, I think it was Twisted Metal. I think he was going off filming. Bryan Danielson on the verge of retirement. And, Jon Moxley as the IWGP champion in New Japan Professional Wrestling not really being featured on AEW. So he really, honestly, had so much on his plate. 1,010%. And, and now, and then you put him against Ricochet, then Ricochet, obviously, he's going to lose. So, kind of already started off on the wrong foot. Maybe it'll hold justice and, become something better. But, hey, what are we going to do? Next, we have the AEW Women's World Championship Eliminator. Timeless Toni Storm against Sky Blue versus ? So we have two people. Women's Tag Team Eliminator match. Who makes the most sense to fight at Double or Nothing? Double or Nothing. Question marks. I'm already kind of thinking Mariah May might make her way back to AEW to kind of have a round. I think it'll be round 3. Maybe it might be. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. With the Timeless Toni Storm, maybe we might get I doubt we'll get any we'll get any surprise. I definitely think maybe Megan Bayne will be a part of it. It kind of makes sense for her to do so because she's still very much in terms of the AEW Women's World title division. She's she's dominant. She's up there. I feel, she's a complete badass. Thunder Rosa, obviously, tag team with Toni Storm recently on Dynamite. I don't really think she's gonna be the other name, but I don't know. It should be interesting. Every single time Toni Storm steps inside the match or holds the mic, it's always it's always super entertaining. So we're in for a surprise. Hangman Adam Page with Will Ospreay taking on Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander of the Don Callis family. Obviously, Josh Alexander's debut in AEW was spoiled from Hangman Adam Page. Now he's tag teaming with a guy he's going to fight at Double or Nothing to determine who will win the Owen Hart Cup champion. The Owen Hart Cup, I don't even championship. No, it's not. And who will get a title shot at All In Texas. I feel like Hangman's going to win that match against Will Ospreay, but I think it's going to be, how many, we got 2 weeks? No. Yeah, we got about 2 weeks. We have about 2 weeks until Double or Nothing, so we're going to start building up these guys hating each other. I feel like that is ultimately what AEW needs to do. This Owen Hart Cup match at Double or Nothing needs to kind of be the bee's knees, needs to kind of hold and jeopardize the entire future of the wrestling careers of Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. So, something needs to be done because right now it still kind of seems like, on a couple of Dynamite, recently on Dynamite you had a Hangman kind of, tell the fans I was in a real bad place, this and that and the other, and Will Ospreay kind of telling them, looking them dead in the eyes, like, I've never fought you, bruv, and we never had our, so I feel like obviously somebody has to lose, right? There needs to be a little bit more meat, a little bit more teeth with this, with this feud that they have with this match. I like the fact that maybe two baby faces going at it, nice little handshake, being like, hey, may the best man win would be pretty badass. But when you insert the Don Callis family, and they look weak right now. Fletcher lost, Konosuke Takeshita losing his AEW International Championship against Kenny Omega. And then, just losing in the Owen Hart Cup, it seems like they kind of taking a step back. So, I see them building up a little bit more potential, a little bit more momentum. They honestly need this win more than Hangman Adam Page and Will Ospreay. Obviously, in my opinion, 1,010%. Next, we have the AEW World Championship match. Jon Moxley defends his title in a steel cage match against Samoa Joe. love Samoa Joe. He is, the Ops, obviously, Trios champions. Holding the World Championship, not in his future. He's not going to win. The only person that's going to dethrone Jon Moxley is at All In, whoever wins the Owen Hart Cup. Basically, could pencil their name in for the new AEW World Champion. But that's just my opinion. I feel like Moxley, we'll see the Ops get into it. They recently introduced Powerhouse Hobbs into the gang. But this Death Rider storyline, it's dying. It's getting a little dry. A lot of the wrestling media, not really digging on it anymore. So there needs to be a new flame. There needs to be a young, ambitious person added to the group, and it's got to be Hook. Hook's got to join the Death Riders. I know, like, they're the one who took him out, but kind of the same thing with Wheeler Yuta. It seems like it kind of paints the overall perspective of how the Death Riders roll. Be like, hey, if you're not with us, you're against us. We'll help you do this and that and the other. And I know this theory might sound bananas, like I said, because they're the one who took out Hook. But Hook, as of right now, doesn't really seem like he belongs on the Ops. And he's such a young... His contract is nearing the end. I'm not too sure if he's going to just ride it out with the Ops and, test free agency once when his contract expires from All Elite Wrestling. Maybe, but... You can bet your ass if Hook joins the Death Riders, it'll spice things up. Even Taz said it. Tony Schiavone was, he said it. I think it was Tony Schiavone or oh my God, what's the other guy's name? I can't think of the guy who wears the mask. Damn it! Why am I forgetting names today? Excalibur. And then Taz said on the, he said on the mic, he said on the interview and commentary, he was like, look, Hook's going to come back and he's going to do what he's got to do. And he's going to do what he thinks, what's best for him. And I heard that and I was like, all right, it wasn't like, oh, Hook's going to come back and beat the holy hell out of the Death Riders and team up with the Ops again. He was ultimately replaced with Powerhouse Hobbs. Is Hobbs going to give up 1/3 of his Trios championship to Hook? Be like, oh, hey, here, you win. Good job. No, definitely not. So you need a new storyline with Hook. I feel like it would be beneficial for, the Death Rider storyline for Hook, for AEW, if you add a new edition of Hook. The cold-hearted, handsome devil. Cold-hearted, definitely, there's no friends in professional wrestling. No friends whatsoever. And then Hook, just creating allies with the Death Riders. It seems like it makes sense. Seems like the most sense. Maybe he comes in and Samoa Joe thinks that he's going to help him. And then bam, Hook attacks Samoa Joe. Jon Moxley retains the championship because, Pac is gone. He's going to be injured for quite some time. Claudio Castagnoli, I love him as a singles wrestler, and I definitely feel like he is, he's championship material. But recently, he's been his character kind of looks weak. He does lose often. But then again, he kind of wins often. He's like the ultimately definition of consistency, I guess you can say. Consistent loser, consistent winner. I'm just kidding. No, but I don't know. I just feel like this Death Rider storyline, something needs to change. Just a different spin on it, and it would be interesting to see Hook join the dark side. But who knows? Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast. That's it for me. Hope you guys have an amazing week. Like I said, hope you guys had an amazing Mother's Day. If you missed it, send your mom a card, some flowers, some chocolates. Show her that you care. Take her out to lunch. Take her out to dinner or dessert. Maybe get some froyo. Yogurtland, is that still a thing? Yogurtland? But anyways, remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter /X, however you guys like to call it. Facebook and TikTok for more content and updates. Always remember, if I have not made you a wrestling fan by now, make sure you guys join in all the other podcasts with all these young, amazing podcasters. All the shows that they do is absolutely special, is absolutely super badass. So do not miss it. Do not regret not being a part of this revolution. Smash that like, and please, please, please smash that subscribe button. I give you guys the Eric Rodriguez guarantee that you will never, ever, 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 ever regret subscribing to such an amazing sports network. 1010%. Eric out. Stay beautiful. Always, most importantly, love you.